Hello, good evening. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. This is Dr. Dermot Hudson from the British Group for the Study of the Juche idea and chairman of the Korean Friendship Association and official delegate of the KFA for the UK, and of course, the president of the association for the study of the Songun politics, and also owner of this channel, SONGUN007. And this is our fourth SONGUN007-KFA UK British Group for the Study of the Juche idea live broadcast. Broadcasting to you live. Welcome to everybody who's just joining. Yes, good evening. Very glad to see you. And today, basically, the format's going to be the same as before. I will make a fairly short presentation. Well, I think it'll take about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then I will take questions from the audience. And I thought tonight I would actually talk about the subject of genes, capitalist decadence, people's career, and Juche. And the reason I'm doing this because of the attacks on the DPRK over them showing the Alan Titchmarsh gardening program in the DPRK, with apparently some very minor detail sort of blurred out. Now, I personally think Alan Titchmarsh is far too old to be wearing jeans. It's quite unbecoming and undignified for him to do so. But that is, of course, another subject. Uh, you know, we can, not for us to discuss. So anyway, this story appeared in NK News, those scoundrels and scumbags, about Korean Central Television, which is one of the main TV channels in the DPRK, blurring parts of a BBC gardening program with Alan Titchmarsh. And really, I mean, I think the main point we need to bear in mind here is that it was really a non-news story. It shouldn't have been a big deal. No one should have been worrying about it, but it was something that caught a lot of attention. And it was really NK News, which of course is a CIA front organization set up by someone who used to work for the German Marshall Fund. And please look at Wikispooks, see what they say about the German Marshall Fund. It was them being nitpicking about the DPRK. Honestly, it's sort of no big deal about the DPRK doing this. And in fact, it actually proves that it's indeed a falsehood that there are no foreign programs in the DPRK, which is alleged. It's alleged that there's not only no foreign programs in the DPRK, but people can actually be imprisoned or even executed for watching them. But Korean Central TV is actually showing a BBC gardening program, no less. And I think the fact that the story had been copied by the BBC, the Liberal Guardian, the muesli the paper for muesli eaters and such like, the chattering classes, Guardian and Sky News, the fact that they all copied the NK News story shows you that there is a media conspiracy against people's career, that there's a shadowy cabal cabal of uh, uh, of so-called journalists, really propaganda writers, who create false stories about the DPRK, and they're all based in South Korea. And of course, it is the DPRK's right, its independent right, to control the content of its broadcasting. It's not for the BBC or NK News or the British government or the US imperialists or the European Union or the UN to try and tell the DPRK what they can and can't broadcast, and how much uh, they should, how much they should show. And of course, the BBC itself is actually one of the worst censors in the world. Its content is heavily censored. They routinely miss out reports of demonstrations, even when there's a huge demonstration uh, outside the BBC. The BBC managed somehow not to notice it and not to report it. BBC staff are, of course, vetted by the intelligence services, to a very high degree. The level of vetting for the BBC is actually the same as for joining the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, or the Ministry of Defence, or the Home Office, and some other parts of the civil service. The BBC is the biggest producer of fake news. And let us not forget that for years, the BBC employed the predatory paedophile Jimmy Savile, and covered up the Hugh Edwards scandal. Very conveniently, Mr. Edwards was put in a mental home last year, out the way of journalists who might have asked awkward questions. Hugh Edwards also continues to get a salary of 435,000 per annum, per year, and he's the highest paid BBC newsreader, although he's not actually working for them. So work that one out. Answers on a postcard, please. I mean, I think it's an utter disgrace. How the BBC acted over this scandal. They've obviously covered up something, and they're continuing to pay this person. Anyway, back to the central thrust. Yes, the DPRK doesn't like jeans or Western culture. So what? Go call the Marines, as my mother used to say. It's the DPRK's independent right to reject imperialist and Western lifestyles and Western clothing. And I myself, I've never worn jeans since I was about 16 or 17. And when I was younger, I was proud to be part of the corduroy trouser wearing old left, the old no nonsense left. Jeans are a symbol of American and Western imperialist culture. And a few months after the death of the great leader, Chairman Kim Jong-il himself wrote, and I quote, Ours is socialism that is centered on the masses, where the people are masters of everything and everything serves them. Today, the progressive peoples of the world, the people of the countries where socialism collapsed in particular, are envious of and look up to our socialism that is centered on the masses. Recently, some scholars from a country where socialism had collapsed visited our country. I was told that after looking around Pyongyang, they said that they had learned a lot from Korea's socialism, adding that they could not find anyone who was begging drunk or dressed in jeans. End of quotation. Surely this is a good thing, not a bad thing. The imperialists tried to destroy socialism by means of ideological and cultural infiltration. Once the director of the US Central Intelligence Agency, Alan Dulles, the brother of the infamous John Foster Dulles, the architect of the Korean War, actually hatched a plan to bring down socialism by means of ideological and cultural infiltration. The following words were attributed to Dulles, and I quote: "We shall arm comedians with jokes that laugh out their present and future, poison the soul of youth with disbelief in their purpose in life, awaken their interest in sexual problems, abate them with such lures of the free world as fancy dances, pretty clothing, special records, verses, songs, sow discord between the youth and the older generation." End of quote. So, the Workers' Party of Korea, uh, under the leadership of President Kim Il sung and Chairman Kim Jong il, and later respected Marshal Kim Jong un, put up the mosquito net to prevent imperialist ideological and cultural infiltration. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, many socialist countries, such as the USSR and others, collapsed one by one because of revisionism, but also because of decades of ideological and cultural infiltration by Western imperialism. Also, in 1989, counter-revolutionary disturbances occurred in a neighbouring country to the DPRK, because it had accepted reform and opening up. And indeed, it was said that this country had opened the door but had forgotten to put up the mosquito net. I myself remember visiting Hungary in the 1980s at a time it was supposed to be a socialist country, but it had a McDonald's, Western fashion shops, people wearing jeans, and also Madonna and Rambo posters were openly on sale in markets. In the former German Democratic Republic, I saw drunk people and people wearing jeans. A few years after the collapse of socialism in the USSR, Comrade Kim Jong il urged that the newer generations should be educated properly so they would not degenerate ideologically and fall victim to the insidious and toxic Coca-Cola culture of US imperialism. Comrade Kim Jong il wrote, and I quote: "It is important to educate the third and fourth generations of the revolution effectively because they've experienced neither trials nor suffering. We must get them to drink the syrup made from the blueberries of Mount Pakdu, not Coca-Cola. In other words, we must imbue them thoroughly with the revolutionary ideology of our party so they are not swayed in the slightest by the wind of bourgeois liberalization. End of quotation. This was a stern revolutionary statement that rejected bourgeois liberalization and imperialist ideological and cultural infiltration. We revolutionaries in the West, reading this statement, wished and hoped, wished that the USSR and former East European socialist countries had actually done the same thing as the DPRK. The words of Comrade Kim Jong-il were a very powerful statement, inspiring the world's revolutionary peoples in their fight against Coca-Colaization and globalization. When the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, passed away in July 1994, the imperialists and some other forces had the expectation that the DPRK would, quote, open up and, quote, reform in the style of a certain neighboring country. However, Comrade Kim Jong-il declared, expect no change from me. This statement was a blow to the imperialists as well as an affirmation that People's Korea would continue along the Juche-orientated socialist road. Later in his work, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a Juche-orientated socialist state with invincible might. Comrade Kim Jong-il blasted reform and opening up, saying that, and I quote, the reform and openness they are advocating represent a move to destroy and put down our style of socialism. Such moves will only worsen their relations with us and are doomed to failure. End of quotation. This smashed the insidious and evil moves of the imperialists and renegades and revisionists to undermine and destroy Juche-based socialism by means of opening up and reform, and greatly inspired the peoples of the world aspiring for independence and socialism. Respected Marshal Kim Jong-un 10 years ago said to party ideological workers, and I quote, they should take the initiative in launching operations to make the imperialist moves of ideological and cultural infiltration end in smoke, while putting up the mosquito net, double and treble, to prevent viruses of capitalist ideology, which the enemy is persistently attempting to spread from infiltrating across our border. End of quote. At the end of the day, People's Korea does not need to open up to the degenerate and decadent culture of US and world imperialism. It has nothing to gain from it, and indeed, the overthrow of socialism in the DPRK would be truly disastrous and would come with a massive human cost. Various allegations, one kind or another, are hurled against People's Korea by the media of the Western world, as well as by so-called experts. Usually it is alleged as human rights abuses, blah, 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 dictatorship, blah, 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 etc. However, speaking to a friend these days, I realized even more before that People's Korea is far more superior to the decadent imperialist states than we can imagine. My friend told me about the widespread drug use in a certain EU state, about how drugs damage families, relationships, and whole communities. Of course, in People's Korea, there are no drug addicts or drug dealers. Over the past 60 or 50 years, drugs have become an all-pervasive feature of society in the West. The damage caused by drugs in human and material terms is enormous. and sometimes beyond calculation. For example, suicide, early death, unemployment, mental impairment, and many other effects. Huge sums of money have to be diverted into rehabilitating drug addicts, but people's career doesn't need to divert resources into rehabilitating drug addicts because there aren't any there. People's career is without all these kinds of problems, and those only continuous advance. Of course, Western countries cannot solve the problem of drug misuse or addiction. Firstly, illegal drugs bring big profits to the capitalists. Much of the money from drugs ends up in banks. Cracking down on drugs would eat into profits. Secondly, in Western countries, there is an abstract concept of individual freedom, namely that people should be allowed to do what they want. Thirdly, in Western countries, drugs function as a means of social control by the elite, along with a number of other things. People's career has achieved what Western countries have not achieved and can never achieve. And lastly, a few words about the recent missile test. On the 2nd of April, the Missile Administration of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, successfully tested the Hwasong, the intermediate range ballistic missile, the Hwasong-po 16 Na, in the presence of the respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, the Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army, President of State Affairs of the DPRK, and General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea. The Hwasong-po 16 Na is a solid fuel missile with a hypersonic glide vehicle. The test fire was a great success. As the Korean Central News Agency reported, and I quote, the hypersonic glide vehicle separated from the missile after its launch northeastward at an army unit's training field in a suburb of Pyongyang, reached its first peak at the height of 101.1 kilometers and the second peak at the height of 72.3 kilometers, while making a 1,000-kilometer long flight as scheduled and accurately landed in the waters the East Sea of Korea. Truly, the test fire, the Hwasong-po 16 Na, was a remarkable event demonstrating the great Juche-based self-defense power of People's Korea under the wise leadership of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. The DPRK's defense capabilities are increasing day by day, enabling the DPRK to defend itself from an imperialist aggression and successfully deter the threat of war. The successful test of the Hwasong-po 16 Na is another great victory for People's Korea, a victory of the Juche idea and Songun idea. Long live People's Korea, long live Juche, long live Songun. Thank you for listening. We can now perhaps take a few questions. When people are ready. Right, yes, it's very good that KFA Italy have published the book, The Korean Way to Socialism. I congratulate KFA Italy on that, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay, if there's people want to, fire away with a few questions, I will be ready to answer them. Yeah, I mean, while people are formulating a few questions, I'll just reply to a few things in the chat. Yeah, the so-called academics in South Korea that slander the DPRK. Yes, it is true. They've always defended the Syngman Rhee regime, and in fact, all puppet regimes in South Korea. And of course, these people are actually paid by them. Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've got, these reports are being spread by South Korean puppet media and by NK News that a ship, a DPRK ship, has been seized, but this is actually not a DPRK ship. It is not under the DPRK flag. So yeah, I think it is fake news by the South Korean puppets yet again. And unfortunately, we're going to see a lot more of it in the coming months, as the imperialists do not like the better relations between the DPRK and the Russian Federation. Given that DPRK has an independent style in clothing and personal effects, how do people affect this artistic style? Can younger generations affect it? Yeah, I mean, it is a fact that clothing styles in the DPRK have changed over the years. They are quite different to how they were in the 1970s and how they were in the 1990s. And I have seen that myself when I visited the DPRK, and the DPRK actually puts a lot of effort into designing clothes. It has exhibitions of new clothes, which people can see new designs and decide whether these are good, whether they like them. That's basically how it's done in the DPRK. Right. Well, with regard to the so-called abduction issue, that has been solved. And there's no need for the Japanese side to keep bringing it up because it is about the fact that the Japanese side keep mentioning something that was resolved 22 years ago is a barrier to the improvement of relations between the Japan and the DPRK. I mean, a very small number of Japanese citizens were taken to the DPRK. The number is very small, and this has to be seen within the context of the past history when actually Japan made Korea a Japanese colony and severely oppressed the Korean people, and also took many the Korean citizens to Japan to work as forced laborers, and also kidnapped over 200,000 Korean women and used them as sex slaves. Crime beyond imagination. Crime for which no amount of compensation could never atone, could never solve. The Japanese keep moaning about tiny number of Japanese citizens who were taken to the DPRK in retaliation for Japanese crimes against the DPRK, against the Korean people in the period of the Japanese Empire. Yeah. Next question, please. Okay, well, while we okay, right, okay. Well, while we wait for questions, I just would like to point out that tomorrow we've got a meeting in central London on the subject of celebrating the successes of Korean style Juche based socialism, at which I'm going to be speaking. I've got a brilliant uh, speech lined up, and please contact us for details of the venue. On our email addresses or through Facebook or Telegram. We may release details of the venue nearer to when the time when the meeting is going to start. But it's absolutely very important that people support KFA UK and the British group for the study the Juche idea. with no ifs or buts, and attend our events. This is very important. Uh, you know, to defeat the enemies of people's career. Yes, I mean, if we're able to take pictures, we will. Uh, show them. Show them. Right. I'm just reading the question. So my question is that because the North refused to agree uh, with everything the US wanted? I know that the US has a hard time uh, with anything different from than themselves. Yeah, I mean, that's quite true. The US doesn't like any country that's different from itself. It doesn't like countries that go their own way. And any country that stands up to the US can expect to be demonized, for its leaders to be called names of one kind or another, like dictator, mad dog, or they say it's a rogue state. So I think it's very true that the DPRK is demonized because it has refused to bow down before the US and do what the US want. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Ben. The DPRK strives all the time uh, to establish the Juche orientation in all fields of life, including clothing design. So people are sort of educated in the Juche idea, in the idea of valuing the culture and independence of the DPRK. So by that, they avoid these sort of pitfalls of people bringing back ideas from abroad. Right. Recent years, we've been receiving many questions about KFA from our followers in Turkey. If we share these photographs, their curiosity will increase even more. Yes, well, we will do our best to take a few pictures, but I can't guarantee anything. Yes, hello, comrade. Thank you for joining the live stream. Uh, okay, I'll just wait for a few more questions and sort of aim to close about maybe 10-15 minutes. Right, I am working on a new book about the DPRK called The Socialist Fortress of Juche, which is all about the DPRK's independent defence policy. It's going to explain about how the DPRK built up its defences and how it defends itself against imperialism, and how it is like a fortress country that uh, is able to defend itself uh, without any without relying on other countries. So that's what the book is going to be about. I aim to finish it by this year. And I would just, uh, as you've mentioned, books, just draw a little bit of attention to some of my books. There is the Great Conspiracy Against People's Career. This is the uh, old edition. There's a newer edition of that. And it explains all the moves of the imperialists, including cultural infiltration, uh, to destroy Juche-based socialism in the DPRK. And this book, Career of Juche, really explains Juche career. There's a section on DPRK foreign policy. And there is this book, Red Flag Flying High in Juche career, which was actually about the visits in 2012 that the British group for the study the Juche idea had. Yes, I have met Comrade Alejandro Caldi-Benos many times. I actually met him last November in Barcelona, and I first actually met him in 2002. So I've known him nearly 22 years. My last question is, what aspects of Juche culture would you like to see maintained and lifted up for younger generations? What should British Juche emphasise? Well, I think we should be emphasising the best of progressive British culture, and we have a fine tradition in this country. Going back to the Peasants' Revolt, led by Wat Tyler, and to the English Revolution and the Levellers and the Chartists. And I think these are, very important things for us to carry forward. We have excellent progressive writers, like Robert Tressel, the book The Ragged Trousered Philanthropists, and many other excellent novelists and writers, such as H.G. Wells, the science fiction writer, for example. So I think there's many things that we can carry forward, and we can also develop traditional British culture. Things like Morris dancing, etc. And traditional folk culture. So I mean that's the sort of answer briefly to your question, Ben. I don't know if that fully answers it. Yeah, I was just going to say that someone's answered the question already. I mean, yeah, Comrade Alejandro is safe and well. He has not been extradited. However, his passport is still in the hands of the reactionary Spanish authorities, so he cannot travel abroad. But apart from that, he is indeed safe and well. Yes, it is. I mean, culture is a very interesting topic, but my feeling in Britain is that we've got a lot we can actually build on and carry forward. Right. Okay. I've just seen one question. Are North Korean military vehicles more powerful than South Korean military vehicles? Well, I think they are. The DPRK is making its own tanks. South Korea just imports stuff from the US and a number of other countries. So I think the DPRK's military vehicles are superior. And I think, more importantly, they're built in a Korean style and they're designed to cope with the terrain in Korea, whereas South Korea is using military vehicles imported from outside, which often don't take into account the very mountainous terrain in Korea, particularly in the north. Okay, maybe we have a few other questions. I'm going to run this till uh, 8 p.m. my time. So we got, another 13 minutes going to go. No, it's a bit of a quiet live stream tonight. I mean, perhaps also people can, if they want, put in the chat topics they would like me to discuss in future live broadcasts. Uh, Certainly, I mean, in response to the question that's just came up, I wouldn't say they would have a specialised mountain division because the DPRK is very mountainous. So I think the whole army is sort of trained in fighting mountain warfare. I mean, there are special forces of the KPA, however, the special forces of the Korean People's Army, uh, who are you know, basically commandos. Yeah, I mean, if people want to suggest topics for future live streams, please go ahead. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any suggestions or questions. I mean, all I would do is sort of take this opportunity to urge people to participate in our events. As I've mentioned already, we have a uh, meeting tomorrow in central London at which I will speak. There's also going to be an online meeting on the 8th of April, and we're going to arrange another film night and another Q&A. So there's plenty of activities, for people to get their teeth in. And your participation in our activities will make a difference and it will make us stronger and better able to carry out our core task of defending people's career with no ifs or buts. And I will also urge people to buy our publications. We've got a author spot on lulu.com. It's not just my books on it. These books by other people in the KFA, such as Alan Bollen and Sean Pickford. They're, these books written by them, these collectively written books. And I would also urge people to donate money to KFA through PayPal or through coffee.com. There will be links to both of those in posted in different places. And okay, some questions have appeared. I don't know if there's a time lag on this thing. Firstly, uh, to answer Ben's question, which is very important. Yeah, I mean, certainly, we would like to attend both those events, but it's all down to time and money, and also probably, someone providing accommodation. But yeah, I mean, I'd be more than happy to try and get up to the Durham Miners Gala and the Wigan Diggers Festival. Be great if KFA could have a presence at both of those, or if someone would like to step up uh, to the bar and volunteer to do that, it would be great. And the other one is, I believe North Korea has a lot to offer. It'd be good to show comparisons of American propaganda uh, used in the US and how similar it is to what is used in South Korea. Well, I totally agree with that, except I prefer to call it People's Korea or the DPRK or Socialist Korea rather than North Korea. But, that's uh, just one sort of difference I would sort of have with yourself. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. And uh, footage of pickpockets being caught in London's Green Park has recently gone viral on social media. What would you say to those who slander the DPRK over this? Uh, could you elaborate a bit more? I mean, how is the DPRK being slandered over pickpockets being caught in London? In London, can you explain this a bit better, a bit more, please? Right. Well, while we're waiting for a sort of more detailed explanation of how these incidents in Green Park relate to the DPRK. These other questions coming up. Yeah, I mean, I accept. First of all, you didn't mean any disrespect to the DPRK. It's frequently called that in the media. So it's very easy to sort of say that. I think one important question: how do South Koreans get punished for supporting the DPRK? Well, there is the national security law in South Korea that was enacted in 1948. 75 years ago. It's really a copy of old Japanese colonial laws, and it defines the DPRK as an anti-state entity. Uh, and supporting the DPRK is a punishable offence in South Korea, and even listening to DPRK music in South Korea can be construed as supporting the DPRK and can earn you a prison sentence. People can be jailed up to 7 years in South Korea for supporting the DPRK, and they can even be executed for supporting the DPRK, as were the leaders of the Revolutionary Party for Reunification and the Strategic Liberation Party in South Korea. Uh, so, that's my answer to that. I mean, I'm not quite sure about this question about the pickpockets. Again, I would ask, who is saying there is a connection between the DPRK and this. And the only point I would make is that the DPRK is virtually a crime-free society. It's a society where you can actually walk down the street without fear of being robbed, for a pickpocket, or being mugged. There's no graffiti or vandalism there. There's no drug use in the DPRK. So when you compare it to the crime-ridden and chaotic atmosphere in Western countries like London, like the UK, and in particular London, you can see that People's Korea is a very well ordered and disciplined society. Okay, well, I'll just see if there's one last question, and then we will conclude for the evening, and we'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks. Right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think I will finish here because I need to prepare for the meeting tomorrow. I hope to see as many of you there as possible tomorrow. Right. Well, I'll just answer the last 2 questions. The next stream will be in about 3 weeks' time. That's the simple answer. And just looking at Ben's question, given that we know the CIA will never stop trying to push cultural, ideological infiltration, what was the reformist cultural product that they most successful in injecting? How did the DPRK defeat it? Well, as I said in the presentation at the beginning, the DPRK combats ideological and cultural infiltration by uh, uh, putting up the mosquito net, by stepping up its own ideological work, particularly with anti-US, anti-imperialist education, and also developing its own culture. So that's how it's done. And of course, the DPRK's always opposed revisionism, whereas some other socialist countries, fell into the trap of modern revisionism, and that is why the DPRK is able to resist imperialist ideological and cultural infiltration. Right. Well, I think I've answered all the questions. So I wish everybody a good night. Please check out all our social media, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp for details of our events. And I will be back in 3 weeks' time. So goodbye, everybody. Have a good evening.